Hey guys, it's Delphinator here, and here with me is my husband. You have a name, right?
No.
Sam Wonder. If you're new here, yoo-hoo! And if you're an oldie, welcome back. So it's been a long time coming to do this Q&A video. Since putting out our story, we've gotten tons of questions from you guys, and we've just taken the time to gather everything. We haven't actually discussed it, have we? So we're just going to do it on the spot, no rehearsals, nothing, and just allow God do what he wants to do. So sit tight. Let's dive into it. What are the things you've experienced so far in marriage to make you appreciate God's choice of your spouse above what you would have chosen for yourself? And why you feel it is so important to have the knowledge that it was God who chose your spouse for you? That's very packed.
That's a PhD question.
The question has babies.
The thing about making a choice in the spirit is that it is forever. However, it starts to reveal itself in the physical. Example, people get married and start to look alike as they get older because the spirit is in the blood. So in the reality of life, the spirit starts to manifest, starts to come out, starts to speak. Blood starts to speak. Things that you have not seen and touched, you will begin to see and touch, and your hands will handle concerning the life you have chosen. So yes, there are experiences. Sometimes you may not even know, because the devil is constantly trying to compare your life with the life of another person, but you have never really experienced that life, and you don't know what you are really going to get if you ended up with them. Let's say sometimes I'm praying in tongues early in the morning, and Dale wakes up and joins me immediately, and my heart rejoices. Sometimes we can have little conversation about something, and the way she responds, and my heart rejoices. Sometimes something that could maybe in another situation or possibly in another marriage may have caused a big fight, and the way she will respond, my heart will rejoice. And my heart would then say to my mind, trust me, this was why God chose this for you. And sometimes you may never know how far you could have gone into darkness, into religion, into not doing the will of God because you have never been there. However, the Holy Spirit would constantly show you and tell you and breathe joy into your soul to say, you've made the right choice. You are the Son of God.
So I would say on my own point of view, some of the things I have experienced so far are not the things that are romantic or make
What do you mean they're not experienced?
No, calm down. I'm not saying I haven't experienced romance. I'm saying what I appreciate the most based on this person's question is not about romance. It has nothing to do with the things that make you have butterflies in your belly. Instead, it's the things that make me uncomfortable. Like there are certain things that Sam has noticed about me that he's talked about over and over and over again, correcting me, giving me words of advice, in his words, counsel, about certain areas in my life that I need to, switch on, right? And initially, when we first got married, I used to be so pissed off by this whole thing. I just sit there and be staring at him. When he's done talking, I continue what I'm doing, but over time, I have come to appreciate the fact that he's not just saying these things because he wants to nag me, but because he actually wants the best for me. And obviously, because I'm married to him, we are one now. So whatever bad reflects on me, reflects on him as well. So he's also looking out for himself. So yeah, I would say that's my own theory. How did you both navigate abstinence during your courtship?
It was a very short time.
It was a short time.
It was such a short time. Just before we knew, we were busy planning the wedding.
Yeah.
So
there was no
everything
time
was moving so fast. And so that's my advice. My advice is get it done
fast
as soon as possible.
Yeah, by do it fast, we mean marriage.
Yeah.
Not do the other thing fast.
How do your mind go there?
Because before someone misunderstands us.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know that there are many, many ways to abstain and this and this. Paul said,
if you are burning,
flee. And some people, I'm not burning. And I wouldn't say I was burning. I've been waiting for a long time. And I don't think that it was a burn. But what he was just trying to say is, I know that there are 6 ways to stay pure in marriage, in courtship. There are 7 ways. I'm talking to men, especially. When when you get the conviction, just get it done. Get it done. There's nothing you're going to know better. If the conviction is there, pray about it, lean on it. And while you're praying about it, whether it is true, your temptation will be smaller because you would have constantly been praying. And once you get it done with, Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Nothing else to add to that. Were those mushy feelings there before you got married? The butterflies in your belly, the lovey-dovey feelings. Can one get married without those feelings? I know I love this person, but those feelings are not there.
I think that a lot of our understanding of love has come from Hollywood to start with. I think there are a lot of things in our world that is defining life for us and are generating all sorts of ungodly. And permit me to say ungodly. Some people say, why are you being extreme? A lot of it is ungodly. Ungodly not because it is bad, but ungodly because it has a tendency to blur our vision when it comes to making choices that lead us towards Christ and the journey he has penned down for us, And so to start with, a lot of emotions can be built, emotions can be cultivated. The cultivation is definitely not going to have butterflies, but it's being cultivated. We are all having different lives, different journeys. Some people would get butterflies for sure. When you meet the person and get butterflies to the marriage, it's a long distance, even if it is 1 month. In some cases, yes, you may possibly feel butterflies, but the main thing is the will of God. Sometimes you feel it in the will of God. For me, my nature, my type of person, when I feel butterfly about anything, God doesn't give it to me. Yeah, even as a kid, I'll go out pray about something. Once my heart is restless about that thing, once I'm now feeling too much, I don't know, desire. When my desire is not allowing me think about God long enough,
you just take it away.
God just takes it away. I mean, at some point I was like, I'm just a kid, but people have different journeys. Some people would meet God's will from Bollywood, and whatnot. At some point, I just cared about the will of God. And so maybe I'm not the best person to answer this question.
Well, I will jump in here. I would say it's the same for me. For a very long time, I knew that I couldn't miss it when it came to marriage. I knew how important it was drummed into my ear since I was a teenager. You know how important marriage was and how important it was for me to make the right choice. Like I said in previous videos, there were so many prophetic words about it. And I was willing to wait, to make sure that the will of God was done. So emotions and all those things, it's not like it didn't cross my mind. I mean, I mentioned about how I was super close with my ex. We were together for 4 years. My parents loved him. My brother loved him. And I wondered if I would have that sort of friendship with the person that God would say I would marry. But the funny thing is, the moment God said to me, the moment it hit me in my heart that this was the one for me, the feeling started to develop. Like I didn't manufacture it. It just slowly started. That 1.5 years when I was waiting for him, God used that to get my mind in the program. I literally now, when I think back on it, I can see what God was doing. He wasn't just only building patience in me. He was building the feelings. He was watering it, that when the time came, I didn't think twice because I already knew, that this was it. The feelings had already come. So, I mean, what else?
And I did say in my
own video that yours was switched on instantly.
It comes on.
Yeah.
God is so beautiful.
Telling you, just follow the will of God. I promise you, there's nothing better outside of that. How can I pray for God to tell me if I can remarry? If he has someone for me, I really want it. I had a boyfriend recently for 2 years and he just broke up with me. And now I'm very confused. I don't know if God doesn't want anyone in my life, but the desires to get married and to be loved are very strong. So I reckon this person was divorced before.
Maybe this one has to be dealt with privately. I think they can just contact them.
I will leave our email addresses and then we'll email you. I don't think this is something we should talk about publicly. How was Sam able to surrender his heart to God and trust him when he knew he was in a season where he was in need of therapy? Did God heal him all completely, or did he just decide to trust God? If so, how did he do it? Also, for both of you, how do you surrender your heart to God and trust him in regards to spouse?
Yeah, I think this is a very important part of my journey, the therapy. How did I surrender myself? Well, I think I wouldn't say I surrendered myself. I would say that God surrendered me, you know. Um, I think God in many ways is constantly speaking, and Jesus learned obedience through the things he suffered. So there are things we are suffering even right now that are God's invitation to surrendering. Things that we are avoiding right now, things that he's keeping from us right now, things that people in the world are enjoying right now that we are suffering ourselves off, that are a part of our tutelage to surrender. And I think at some point I started to get with the program, and and mine was such a way that I was like, God, couldn't this have been any other way? I think I was talking about it with Dell the other day, and God, in that time, gave me the grace to not to lean on Him through all the things that were going on, and at some point, I broke into the other side of it, and you just have to learn to lean on God through the turbulence, and sit in silence a lot. Sit in silence. Make a time where you are just sat with God in silence, and you know he's going to speak, not because you feel like it, but because you know it. And he wanted to bring me to a place where my hearing was at a point where I would not be sifted. And so to do that, he brought me there, and I spent a lot of time in silence. Sometimes I'm trying to speak in tongues, words are not coming out, and what I have to say is sit. You know, sit, have a run-in with the God of the universe, as Brian Gearan would say. In that time, I wouldn't even say I was meditating, because I couldn't, my mind was embattled with a lot of things. Sometimes I sit down and a lot of questions will come into my mind, a lot of scenarios. Maybe I should have done this. Was it really my fault? Maybe it's not my fault. Maybe this. But I realized that as I stayed, sometimes I doze off. And by the time I open my eyes, everything is white noise. And in that moment, I sit. I sit long enough, and eventually your hearts will start to shift. What I thought, what you would think that God is doing may not be what he is doing. I also saw that he was taking away from me a lot of religious thinking that had hidden themselves and covered themselves in spirituality. And these things no one can teach you. God will teach you, as the Bible says. And now he's alive now, walking with us and wooing us, sitting quietly with us, even when we don't understand, even when we feel far away. And it's for us to trust that fact, and let this be an encouragement for you to know to sit and don't leave. By the time your heart is broken, you're going to be seeing a lot more unconventional things that he would like you to do, that maybe masquerading themselves in spirituality, in religion or worldliness. Sometimes there are spiritual things that may sound worldly to the religious. But that was me at that time. And at some point I could hear. I remember the first time Orezi came to me and said, God says to me that she was a therapist. She had this Mind County place, and she said, God said to me that you needed to do therapy with me. And I thought, I don't think I'm that type of person. But as I sought God, he opened my eyes to a lot of things. A lot of Christians are suffering from a lot of things that they don't think it is God because of how it looks. They are suffering. They have boxed themselves into some type of, which is fine. It's fine to begin somehow. Sometimes when a child is small, they want to stay close to their parents. Every other thing is a bit iffy. But God has his ways to opening the world to us. and leading us. And that for me was one of them.
Was it hard to love a younger person? I guess this question is for me. Both of you had a spec, a type, and both of you married an opposite from your desired type. How hard was it to firstly let go of the type? Sam said when he agreed to God's plan, he was flooded with love for you, paraphrase, amidst the age and the color and shade of your skin. Well, I personally didn't have a type. If you look at some of the people that I've had close relations with in the past, fat, tall, short, dark, light skin, for me, it was always a thing of friendship. That was my number one thing. If I couldn't connect with you mentally, if we didn't have things that I guess I would say were in common, I would have struggled. So I would say, in a sense, that was my own spec, friendship. Like, I wondered a lot, like, will I be friends with this person besides talking about God? What else would we talk about? I mean, in terms of other things. So I wondered about that. So for me, it wasn't a spec matter. And yes, the thing about the age came up at first, but once I settled in my heart that Sam was God's will for me, it's no longer a thing. Since we got married, have we even ever talked about it? No, it's not, because it's insignificant, in the grand scheme of things.
It is.
So I don't think there's anything to talk about here. It's not a problem for me at all. It's my own personal. Sam already shared about his, so let's move on. The question is, how did you and your husband know you were aligned for marriage? Did you watch our previous videos? I don't think you did. If you did, you would know. How did you set boundaries during the period of courting? We already answered this question, so let's move. So to your first question, please go watch our previous videos. We literally gave a detailed account on how that happened.
Maybe there's something in their heart that they're trying to really get at. But carry on.
Okay. Sam had mentioned towards the end of the video that God will prepare you for a certain type of marriage, but not with one person. Does that mean that there is not a specific person that God has chosen as a spouse for someone?
In fact, Paul advises that if possible, do not get married. However,
come on.
Yeah, he says that it is a mirror of Christ's church, the will of God, and a whole lot of things he said there. There's also the part of which God has created man for companionship. So there's all these things, be fruitful, multiply, and that cannot happen if marriage is not an amazing thing. The reality of the joys of the earth, the true joys of the earth, is that they come from the most unlikely places. Anyone who pursues joy, I want to be happy all the time, you will not be happy. But if you trust in, even if you're not a Christian, they trust in life. They trust in how life is turning out, and they just give themselves to it. And they marry. When I was in school, in the final year, almost everybody in the Christian Union got married. They just get married. They think if God has put you and I in the same Christian Union, we should get married. They don't think too much about it, and they do have a wonderful time. So there are people who, there is also the plan of God of the earth. Plants grow. It's God's plan. Trees grow, sun rising and falling is God's plan. Rain falling on both the good and the bad is God's plan. So there is a natural order that God has proposed. And sometimes I think we think too much about where to find happiness and things like that. There is a natural flow of things, of a certain wheel of the earth where God, life, I don't want to use any other word. I say life. In life, it's all God still. It's all God. Some people will bump into the millions. Some people will just, some people have the millions but not have the love of their life. Some people will bump into it too early. It's life. We are not better because we are Christians, because we name the name of the Lord. So life should happen better for us. No, there is also God's intention for all of humanity that proposes for marriage, and people do get married. There is also a huge life out there, and people are enjoying themselves. However, if you want the will of God, according to the prescription of God's life through his son that will make you into the image of God, that will make you into the son that he has proposed, then according to your level of understanding, you will meet someone on your journey towards Christ. This time, you're not just having a natural feeling of ambition, of love according to Hollywood. Some people, all they really want to do in life is to marry the love of their lives and get on a cruise ship and things like that. You are not just going according to the natural order of things. You are now seeking. You are now a seeker. You are now looking for God's will. And depending on what level of God's will you are able to grasp, understand at the time that you are ready for it, somebody, a group of people possibly will be also in that mind frame. Sometimes they may not look it to you, but God knows that where you are is where they are. And he will pick one for you. And he will pick one for you and your life would kick off. Out of 10 friends, there is 6. So first of all, the fact that you are pressing into God in a certain degree already sieves your friends. There are a group of people who you'll be found around. And among that group of people, there will be there could be set a number of them that are according to the design of your frame would help you, would do well with you. And we should not underestimate the power of God to make something out of anything. However, those people would now get into a journey with you where you must now discern. There's a place where God expects you to discern, and God wants you to discern, and God rejoices that you can discern. And at that point, having been left to your discernment, God wants you to rightfully discern, exercising yourself to know what is good for you and what is bad, what is good for others but not good for you. And out of all that exercising yourself to sharpen your discernment, you will clench it. And if that other person is not there at that time, there are people, it will be. You will clench it and God will rejoice and anoint what you have chosen and make the most out of your life.
Make the most. I like that you say God will anoint what you've chosen and make the most, but sometimes it's not necessarily what he may have chosen.
Yeah.
Case in point, maybe God gives you 2 options and says, choose one. Wouldn't the wise thing be throw it back to God?
Yeah, which comes from discernment.
Do you understand? Throw it back to God and be like, God, I don't trust my own ability to pick for myself. Pick for me. God will see that you are ready to actually lay your life down for his will. And out of the 2 that make sense, he will pick the one that makes better sense for you. It may not look like that to you, but he will pick for you. And I find that for a lot of people, this is what they don't want to do. They want to be in control of their own lives. Hence some of the questions that we seem to get. It's not like they don't know the truth. They know the answers, but they just want someone to scratch that. Let's move on. Okay.
Sometimes seeing that someone has done it and has worked encourages people to continue.
Right.
So it's just like a dark,
How long after your marriage did you have your kid?
I think we wanted to wait for like some time, but then we woke up one morning, both of us, and we literally said to each other,
It's time.
It's time. And we both knew that it was time.
That was 5 months after? That was when we conceived, I think. When we decided.
Yeah, we decided.
Yeah. No, we decided 3 months after, conceived 5 months after. How did you manage still getting to know each other and planning a wedding with family?
Personally, I wasn't trying to know anybody. I had full trust that this person was the gold ticket. And that was it for me.
Yeah, I would say the same for me. I just figured that as we go on, as we carry on, it wasn't a thing of intentional. I want to get to know you, and we sit together. And I'm asking, what's your favorite color? Where did you go to school? It wasn't like that. It happened organically, and it is still.
And we tried to do
happening.
1 or 2 online this thing that
just
made us ask ourselves
each other questions. You know,
we tried to do all that sort of. We did every other thing, but I wouldn't say that
that was it.
That was it.
You know,
I think,
we allowed it to happen organically. Were you afraid of the timeline? Less than a year of courting, literally 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. If we had our way, we would have gotten married in 3 months.
Yeah.
According to someone is getting. We started courting December, end of December 2021.
Yeah.
And then someone is getting married in March of 2022. But his sister was getting married, so we had to wait for her. We had to calm down.
Someone was like, calm down.
Yeah.
God bless my mom though.
Yeah. She was a bit confused.
I haven't brought anybody, and all of a sudden I want to.
Yeah, like 3 weeks before, she had asked him, how far, do you have a girlfriend or something? Yeah. And he said no. 3 weeks later, he comes back and says,
ready to marry.
I'm ready. I found
not
wife.
To date. I'm going to marry.
He was like, what?
My mom, God bless you. I've seen a lot of those in my lifetime.
Okay. Did you guys practice abstinence? If so, could you share it? We already talked about this.
But yeah, we did our best. Already we were surrounded by a lot of people who were praying, you know. We were surrounded by a whole lot of Christians. So we had a lot to do, a lot of places to go, you know.
We kept busy.
Yeah. I mean, I got to a point where I was tempted, you know. I did feel like we're already there.
Like we're almost there.
You know,
that especially the week to the wedding, personally for me, there was a burning. I cannot even deny it. But obviously we knew that there was like we had to wait. So yes, we did practice abstinence.
And we had a lot of people around us. Yeah.
In your previous video, I know you mentioned Etim Online, the Word of God, and the Holy Spirit in terms of decoding dreams. What else do you do for interpretation and clarity? And this is a whole separate video for this, so stick around. How were you able to live in the present or in the moment and not think too much when God has already given you a snippet about the future, the time you will be married? Okay, this question is for me. Some days were better than others. Let me just put it that way. Some particular days I was like, this is the promise of God. I will wait. Whatever you want from me, Lord, I will do it. Yeah. And then some other days I'm like, what is this now? How far is this guy? What's going on? Lord, why haven't you shown him? And then on the day that it's reached me here, I shared this already on 25th of December. I literally wailed. I cried and groaned like, God, I'm tired. Kilo day.
People are eating chicken, you know. I cry.
And interestingly, that day he called me while I was praying and I refused to pick his call, you know. So I reacted in different ways, but I would say what really kept me was going back to God with my feelings, no matter what it was. The days when I was feeling high, the days when I was feeling low, I threw my feelings back at God. I speak about David a lot because I see how in the Psalms, he seems a bit bipolar, but everybody else has feelings like that. They just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
On some days, David will say, I kill all my enemies, let them die. And on other days, he'll be begging and pleading for his
Sometimes
enemies.
in the same psalm.
In the same psalm.
You start angry, then end with Lord.
You know, and that is the way the Lord proves you, you know. It's in taking your feelings to God. He refines it. He cleans it up. And then by the time you leave energized. You leave that situation feeling like you have refilled your cup, so to speak, you know. So I would say just throw your feelings at God. Don't try to deal with it alone. Also, there are people around me who help. The Bible says, confess your sins one to another. I know this was not a sin, but there's a kind of succor that can come from a friend. My friend David, who knew this journey, who literally was holding my hand through this journey, was there. Every time I felt a type of way, I would say, David, this is how I'm feeling today. You know, like, I need some encouraging words. You know, like even when I didn't say it, he would message me. I'm like, oh, I just had a dream about you. What's going on in your head? You know, and he would just start prophesying or, you know, giving me words of encouragement. He quite literally held my hand through it. So surround yourself with godly friends, surround yourself with people who understand the journey, you know. And that's how I'll answer that. Your story has been a huge blessing to thousands of people, but do you feel like your relationship is under any sort of pressure now that a bunch of it is out there? How do you intend to shrug off the expectations and keep your focus on Christ and each other in your marriage?
I mean, it's the same with every aspect of life, you know. Once you have hit a certain level of success, then there is pressure to keep succeeding.
Mhm.
But if you've gone through the marriage itself, one thing I was saying to a friend was that on the marriage day, I used to wonder what's special about the wedding. At the wedding, you can tell.
You can tell what?
You can tell the wine. You
Okay.
can tell a lot of things at the wedding, Somehow I can't explain it. You can just get in there. I just want to say, just get in there is a lot. And sometimes the energy that you need to journey all the way to the end of that marriage, you have in the wedding.
I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah. That day, that's why you have a lot of joy, because you're drawing from deep wells. You just like have this thing that you're going to make it. And so don't be afraid. I don't think I'm under any pressure.
Neither am I.
We're not like, oh, oops, lucky dip. We didn't think it was going to happen.
And then, hey,
it happened,
finally.
It happened, this and that. We don't know how it's going to go. No, we have both been on individual journeys, and we're still journeying, So we've been on individual journeys. Like your journey will give you confidence. Your journey with God will give you confidence that, I don't want to use a cliche word like that he will not fail. No, that you will not fail.
Okay. I would say for me, I don't care about expectations, because I did these videos not because I was trying to prove anything to anyone. I did these videos because God asked me to do these videos. So in terms of expectations, I don't think anybody's expectation is weighing on me in any way.
I don't think
I'm determined to do YouTube differently than I did it in the past. I'm determined to actually hear God, then go and do. I'm not trying to be successful on YouTube. I'm not trying to prove to anyone that, oh, see, my marriage is fantastic. That's not the point. The point is to hear God and do what he says. You know how Jesus said, I only do what I see my Father do. That is what I want my YouTube to be. That is what I want us sharing to be about. It's not about trying just content, putting out a story, getting views. That is so not it.
I do feel it's naturally people will find a lot of pressure, a lot of things to hide, trying to make sure they are a perfect couple. I don't think that's the intention. I don't think we plan to show anyone a perfect couple. I think we have individual journeys, like I said, getting here, and there's confidence that grows within a person when you are not just, happy you found love, but God.
This question has babies who is long. It's so uncommon to hear nowadays, and many would say, move on. So for Dale, how did you deal with the feeling of it being far away or not knowing when it would happen and still holding on to the words you got? I think in a sense I've answered this question. God kept encouraging me. Every time I would doubt, he'll give me a new word, a new dream, a new vision. Somebody will call me and encourage me. It was like, keep your eyes on the prize. It literally was like that for me. Every time I would feel like this thing will not happen, God would give me something new, something to look forward to, something to look at. Even though it looked nothing like that in the physical, because we weren't exactly friends, I didn't know him. But somehow God kept reinforcing the idea in my head. So I stayed, I waited, because God didn't let me do otherwise,
Well, honestly, if you decide to move on to where?
Exactly. If you're the one that chose to do the will of God, right? So where are you moving on to, Except God has given you a new instruction, that's a different thing, because there are certain people who maybe God has said this is yours and the person is not interested. Of course, you move on,
And God, it's possible you can give up. It's possible that they'll even give up on me.
No, I didn't. When I came up with the thought of, if he's not the one, give me another one. He gave me another dream that reinforced the idea that indeed he was. I didn't have an option.
Okay, what if I didn't finally arrive at the...
If you didn't arrive, and I would have gone back to God still. And if he tells me move on, I will move on.
Yeah, I do feel that you can hold on to God. It doesn't mean that you held on to the person per se. I don't know.
It's you that was holding on to. It's God. I was only God's child.
So you can hold on to God. Your corner eye can be on someone. And then sometimes it can be like, God, I'm holding on to you, I'm holding on to anybody. But then it is out of, God knows when it's out of faithless, that like some faithless doubt has entered. And that's fine.
Well, for me, it wasn't that. I would categorically tell you that I was certain because of the words that kept coming over and over. And they weren't just like wishy-washy things. And I knew that it wasn't my mind developing these things. I knew it was the voice of God, so I would say it reinforced my faith. That's why I keep saying that the story is not so much how I met my spouse. The story is not so much God gave me a husband. The story for me particularly is how God built my faith. There are certain things that he will give me as a promise right now to look forward to because of these stripes that I have received. It will be easier to believe for those other things or whatever else,
And I see God. That's good.
So for me, it was about the building of my faith. I like that. So nobody can tell me that God does not exist. I don't know if that makes sense. Like there's a certain level of faith that has been built up in me currently just because of that journey that I went through. So did people discourage you, or did you keep what God has said to you from people? How did you manage not to think about it every day and not make it an idol, but still pray into it? Did people discourage me? No.
But when they heard it was me, they said it's better stay on the job.
So nobody discouraged me. All the friends I had around me at that time that I had spoken to, I didn't, like I said in previous videos, I didn't tell them his identity. So what are they discouraging me from?
They're like, this sounds.
So there was nothing to discourage because I didn't tell them. I just told them God has shown me my husband and I with it. The only person that I would say knew was the same David, because I didn't tell him, he figured it out on his own. David just called me one day and said, I think it's this guy. And at that point, I was just like, I can't code it for me anymore because he has seen it. I think Sunesis also knew. There was a dream I shared with Sunesis that had nothing to do with Sam, but Sam was in the dream. It was about some military action, something they were treating dreams on the military in Joseph St. Daniel's. And it was one of the dreams I shared. I didn't share it to the group, but I shared it with Sunesis. And he saw Sam in the dream and we were eating. And Sunesis said immediately, this is about marriage. This is communion. I was just like, I didn't tell him though that I had seen it already, but he figured it out. So some of my friends knew, but...
I would have discouraged you, sir.
me, I know that you can be a little pessimistic, so I'm not even surprised that you'd say something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, did you date other people during your waiting period? Especially as a woman, I know it can feel hard, feeling like you're waiting around and you're ready, but when will they be? Did you at any point feel like a seat warmer, just waiting to be picked up like you were just waiting? What kept you encouraged? Well, I've answered a part of this, but date other people. Why?
Is that what you said?
Yes, did you date other people while waiting? Why? Like, why? Why would I do? What's the point of dating?
I mean, I guess, okay, but let me ask you. During that time, did a guy come around that is like, do you think that if a guy came around, around that time, whether, I don't know, if a guy came around as well, that kind of, do you think you may have been at
Baby, what are you asking? I'll go straight.
No, I'm just saying, like, if, let's say you're waiting for someone, sometimes it's easier when I don't want to use the word nothing better, but something identical.
A bird in hand.
Yeah, something
it's better than
something close can come.
A lion in the bush.
And then you'd be like, well, and he now begins to give you a run for your money, he begins to give you a run for your faith, where you're now thinking.
Let me answer the question. I personally do not believe in dating. I know this sounds a bit extreme, but at the point where God had me, I knew that there was nothing like trial and error anymore. And to me, that's what dating was. Coming from the background I came from in just meeting a guy and let's see where this goes. That was what I came from. And I knew that I was not going to find my husband that way. I had come to the point where I said, God, show me who my husband is. What am I dating for? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. There was no point dating because I had asked God to show me who it was. So I knew that it's a different thing if he had seen me and we had become friends and we dated. I would date him knowing that God has shown me this is my husband. I don't know if you are understanding what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I strongly believe that any girl dating for dating's sake is not a serious person.
Like, what are you doing?
Not a serious person.
Yeah. I don't believe in just dating to find out. I'm trying to get to know no. There are people that have been married for 50 years, they still don't know each other. So if that's what you are trying to do, I'm so sorry. Please go and ask God questions. I don't believe in it. Okay.
Sorry if I sounded harsh, but I think you're not a serious person.
Did you at any point feel like a seat warmer? Maybe that's not the word, but I felt tired of waiting. I didn't feel like, oh, I'm a placeholder. No, I didn't feel that way, but I felt tired of waiting. And I discussed that in the previous video. Okay. How would you advise this situation of knowing what God has said? You should be with a person and giving so many revelations and confirmations, but you've broken up with that same person. How do you wait without feeling like you're left hanging? Just have to wait until God does what he says. So the question is, who broke up with who? Who saw the revelation? Who got the confirmations? Those details will help better answer the question.
I know she said she's not could be pessimistic, but that's absolutely not true. I'm the most get out there and do it. Yeah. However, I think that possibly sometimes some people have strong discernment where they can look at this case and look at the same scenario, another case, and say no. Sometimes it all boils down to how truthful you are to yourself. And when we are going through heartbreak, we are blinded. I was blinded. After I left a girl that we were together, I was trying to go back. And whether it was God's will or not God's will, I don't know. At that time, I just wanted to go back first. Then let me satisfy this thing that is in my heart. Everything you'll be seeing in that time would be about that person. So make sure you're not in that space where sometimes you break up with someone and you feel you made a mistake and everything in your mind is reading, go back. Again, it's not pessimism to ask God for certain gifts of people. There are people who God has given strong discernment as a gift. Everyone should have it, but some have it more than others. And your ability to discern those people helps you as well. Every little helps. Every little helps. Where you are, the community that you are in, the people you are talking to, and your own ability to listen and to counsel and to adhere to the truth. All of it would count in this particular case because, if you can't tell the truth to yourself, if you are blinded, get the counsel from someone else. If the counsel says, stay, God may use your staying and believing to train you for the real person, or the person might come back. I don't think anything will be wasted if you even if blindly believe that this is God out of counsel, out of multitude of counsel, if you believe it is God and you wait, it might even preserve you and save you from some nonsense, because what tells you that the next person will be it too. So if you feel that way, get counsel, and through counsel, if it is shown to you that this might be true, then wait honorably, in a way that honors God, not in a way that if you find yourself constantly trying to go back to them by yourself, that is, don't lie to yourself. Don't listen to people who will try to make you feel good. Girls have a lot of people that want to make them feel good in the moment. I believe that. And I mean, both boys and girls, but yeah.
All right, people, thank you so much for tuning in. We still have a bunch of questions we haven't answered yet, so we will do that in the next video. Once again, it's the Delphinator here, and this is Sam Wonder. Until the next one, toodles.